Hello and welcome to another interview with a Meet the Profit First Professional. And this time I'm delighted to have with me Graeme Tennick from Tennick Accountants. So Graeme, welcome along.
Thank you much for having us, Tim. Appreciate the time and for the invite, so thank you.
No problem. So what I would like to do is ask you to introduce yourself, which I guess we've just kind of done, and just explain who you are and what your business is, just briefly.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you much, Tim. My business is Tennick Accountants. We are 11 years old this year. So my background actually is a business background first and foremost. So in terms of that was my original passion. My dad had a forklift truck business. So I came from that perspective first. And that was where my pure passion came from. I then thought, right, how do I translate that into an actual job and things around that? And then I thought, right, well, I'll start with the accountancy route. And when I started with the accountancy route, it seemed like a relatively safe but structured route into having a business. So I trained in a small accountancy practice, qualified there, went to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers for my sins, PwC, still have the war wounds to show it, went into the public sector, and then I set up this business, like say 11 years ago. And the mistake I made, and again, I'll try and condense this a little bit. The lights are going out. I really need to put more money in the meter. The mistake I made when I first set up the business was I set up a business I'd trained in, but the accounting profession has moved on so much. I then got to the stage whereby I started using the technology side of things and used that quite a bit. I then realised that really you need a blend between the two, the human touch and the technology side of things. And then COVID hit, and then everything kind of suddenly changed in terms of what the business owner really needed, and all of the support around that. So yes, that's a whistle stop, but I'm sure you're going to probe me with lots more questions where I can share a lot more insights as we go.
Sure. It's interesting listening to you saying about the mistakes you made, because a lot of people talk about building their business up with the wrong type of clients as their kind of mistake. And that's definitely my story. That's what I did, when I had my accountancy practice. So it's interesting to hear a different kind of area that you've kind of identified as the areas where you went wrong. But if we don't go wrong, we don't learn, do we? And that's part of
it. Oh, completely. I made a statement to a staff member there last week saying I would prefer the knowledge of lessons learned than the ignorance of success.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that as well. Okay, so this is great. So let's talk about the type of people that you serve. So when you started 11 years ago, what were the kind of clients and businesses that you took on into your business initially?
If they had a pulse, I'd take them on.
Anyone and anything.
Literally, it was that case, because obviously on day one, and again subject to specific circumstances and everything else around that, I left an extremely well-paid job, and off the back of that, naturally you have bills to pay. Certainly the priority has to be, in the theme of profit first, getting the financial decision in such a way that you feel comfortable. So in light of that, that was my first priority. So I actually started with my phone book. I just literally went, a phone book, you know what I mean, your phone directory, whatever you want to call it. But technology enabled me just to go through my phone book, and I told the world I had an accountancy practice. And if they approached me and if I was capable of doing the job, appreciating size-wise and specific niches and things like that where require a certain skill set, I was like, yep, I'll have that. And I took on everything. And my business was largely led by who knocked on the door, sent an email, picked up the phone, anything like that. So yeah, that's how we started in terms of that. And I'll be honest, we went down that route for far too long. Now again, in terms of this, there is a bit of a theme, and again, I don't want to jump too much because obviously again, I know you mentioned the technology piece. There was a theme that I would argue probably went right up until the time when COVID happened. As horrible a situation with COVID was, it allowed us to get a real grip in our business and to take control for things for which we previously taken for granted. That was clients, staffing, and technology in terms of that. So it was a whole educational journey, but it really allowed us to reflect, to learn, and to grow. And when I say grow, I'm not just talking growth in terms of numbers, clients, financial. I'm saying grow with knowledge.
Yeah, understand that. And so when you talk about technology, I think you said at the beginning that you were using technology too much. Did you say that?
Yeah. So
what can you just elaborate on that a little bit so we can understand what you mean?
yeah, it's probably worthwhile telling you a bit about my personality type. For a lot of people who have experience of DISC or Myers-Briggs, one of my personality traits is I am an ambitious little bleep, but I am also impatient. So with impatience comes something whereby when I want something, I want it like yesterday. In terms of that, I don't recall actually being like that as a child, if I'm honest. I don't know what's actually suddenly happened to me. But I've also got another bad trait, and that's working hard. Now, let us just separate out a little bit. I'm not saying working hard alone is a bad thing. But when I was studying, it was never natural to me, the idea of just passing exams and doing it very easily. So I had this ethos whereby if I worked my backside off, pass or fail, I would never have any excuses. And I carried that through into everything I did. So rewinding back to your question with regards to software, I was trying to think of the year, because I was chatting this the other day, I think it was maybe 2017, 2018. I recognised the fact that we were doing compliance-based tasks in compliance-based ways, so a lot of things were manual. And I was like, we really need to change. I went to Xerocon that year, and I was just blown away. I was like, we really need to kind of flip this around a little bit. We need to be using, at the time, Receipt Bank, now Dext. We need to be using cloud-based software. At the time, we chose Sage and Xero. Completed Sage very quickly, focused on Xero. And then I fell in love with the whole advisory piece, which, yes, it did exist back then. So the idea of colourful charts by way of Futurely, I was like, this is amazing. We just need to do all of this. Brought it back, spent a considerable amount of money with it. Certain bits worked, certain bits didn't work. And going back to the statement I said before, what was and wasn't working often lacked the knowledge and research and everything behind it to understand why it wasn't working. So I was very much a case, right, we need to get on this curve because we are way behind here. We should have been doing this beforehand. Bearing in mind, there wasn't that many firms doing it anyway, but I wanted to be at the forefront. So we went down that, then I was like, right, we need to take a step back, learn and reflect. And then we started learning and reflecting to the point whereby, fast forward a little bit more, in 2020, we got the UK Digital Account of the Year award. So we actually started really nailing the software at that point there. Then COVID happened. But that's a bit of a whistle stop in terms of like, we're like this, just going quite slowly, to go like that, to then kind of like, right, okay, let's just level things off, then kind of then go slowly. The whole 1% approach, shall we call it that? Off the back of Sir David Brailsford.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand that. You've mentioned compliance and advisory a couple of times within this as well, which is interesting, obviously. So when you started, would you say it was more compliance? But I think you said in 2017, advisory did exist, which you're quite right, it did.
Yep.
And so is that when you started to offer the advisory side, or would you say that's always been a part of your offering with your clients?
Okay, how do I answer this and keep this to time? Not many people can concisely define advisory.
Agreed.
Nor do many clients understand advisory. So we have always delivered advisory because I've heard this say a couple of times, but I really need to emphasize the fact. Advisory, let's break down what advisory is. Advisory is advice. That's it. It's no golden bullet to these amazing things. Yes, subject to the advice and the impact of the advice can open up a number of doors both ways. Advisory is advice. That's it. It is as simple as that. Now, if I go back to the start of the business journey, yes, we were largely focused on compliance-based tasks, and our advisory piece was focused on those compliance-based tasks. So that advisory, dare I say it, and it's almost kind of quite funny to think about it, but the technology wasn't really that prevalent at that point. Our advisory piece at that point was a check-in 2 to 4 times a year with a client to see how they were and give them some advice or advisory services around the tax position, hence the advisory around the compliance piece, or some advisory piece around some very basic things when the business saying, oh, I can see you're doing better than what you were last year, can I ask you some questions around this? As time progresses, you do more reading, you learn around it, there's more software which comes about. And I always, particularly there now, say software's the enabler. It's not like the solution, it just opens a few doors. You've got to step into it and obviously deliver a solution. from that perspective there was a lot of other changes going on in the background. And let's just think pre-COVID. Let's just use the example of the banks. The banks have massively changed their models, meaning that very few clients now get access to a bank manager. That bank manager used to be a huge soundboard, for so many conversations which were outside compliance. That might be a case of accessing funding, an obvious one, might be a case of accessing clients. You've then got soundboards all around them. You've then got a dysfunctional piece of support. You've got business owner, you've got the accountant, you've got access to finance via whatever means there are, you've then got retirement, you've then got marketing guys, you've got a whole load of pieces of the puzzle which is happening there. Now, COVID accelerated that to the point whereby a business owner needs this hub. It's not just need all the answers. And again, this isn't where the accounting profession needs to kind of evolve to recognise the fact that we don't need to be seen as being the hub of all the answers, but we need to be able to branch out and bring expertise in when we need it, which has then amplified the benefit of the advisory piece outside of the static or historic position of just commenting and advising on tax and accounts. That's where the bigger pieces come. So that's how we have, over the past 5-6 years, really branched out that. So all of a sudden there is an advisory concept outside of compliance everywhere within our firm. So that's bookkeeping side of things. We'll offer operational insights with regards to that. Our newsletters offer operational advisory insights with the back of that. Retirement insights advisory piece around that. We are starting to have far wider ranging and more impactful conversation with clients to just expand the advisory piece, which has already been there and been there from day one, but into a wider ranging number of areas, which actually ties back full circle to my background, which was a business first, because ultimately no business owner sets up a business just to save tax. So why, as accountants, do we allow that to be the measure of how successful our relationship is?
Couldn't agree more. And do you know what, you mentioned the word impactful, and that's the word, isn't it? If you can help make an impact on your clients' businesses, you're doing something right, and that says it all, doesn't it? So that's probably all it needs to be said on what advisory is. Making an impact on your clients, that's enough, isn't it?
I mean, I joke on, I say I love having tax return parties with clients where they're paying record amounts of tax. Brilliant, because they're doing something right and getting them further on down the line. But I do think there's something where, as accountants, we need to recognise the fact that if we just save our clients tax and they reach retirement age and they are unable to retire when they want, how they want, with what they want, and we've never offered anything more than a compliance-based or advisory piece based on only compliance, never offered them anything more, we have failed our jobs with that business owner. If we offer it and they choose to say no, can't do anything about that. But we have a role to play, and a huge role, a very different role than what it has been in many years in the past.
And that's being proactive, isn't it? It's that proactiveness of looking ahead of how can you help this person, how can you help their business, and what is it they want to achieve moving forward. And it's helping them achieve it, isn't it? That's where it all comes into play, isn't it? And so obviously you mentioned about having parties when people have got massive tax bills. I like that. I think I might have seen something on social media from you about that in the past. And I like that. And also obviously with Profit First strategies and probably strategies from before Profit First, you would have had that tax money, made sure that was set aside with that client anyway. So it's not a major obstacle when that happens. It's actually something to celebrate because it means they're really successful and whatnot. So I love that. I love that. So you've mentioned obviously about COVID, about everything changing from that point in time. And obviously that had a massive detrimental impact to a lot of clients around that time. There was a lot of panic, a lot of fear. Did you have you helped your clients overcome that period in time, and have they come out of it stronger? How do you sort of see that period of time?
So a couple of things we did, and I said, be it right or wrong, and I'm very respectful of how any accountancy firm approached this, because it was trial and error, and we did some things right, we did some things wrong. But touch wood, there was only one client that we seen not come out the other side of COVID, but they went into COVID not expecting to be around much longer anyway. So I'm quite proud, more so of our clients and our staff, rather than anything particularly which I did, the fact that we were able to support clients in the way we did during that time frame. But it also bonded us in such a way whereby we could never have got so close if it wasn't for such horrible circumstances. But we really held clients' hands. And like I said, I know so many other great firms did some amazing things as well. But we really did get closer to clients, to listen to them, to be there for when they needed us, to the point where we've continued that way beyond that. To like, actually, you know what it is? Why don't we permanently remain close in terms of how we support clients, so we can support them going forward? If we do that, wouldn't that be an amazing place to be? So be it webinars, be it just pick up the phone randomly just to say, hi Tim, just thought I'd check in, how are you doing? Be it just in terms of personalising things, saying, hi Tim, gather you've got a special birthday coming up. There might just be something to post for you in a couple of days' time. Be it a case of, and I do this with other accountants, passing work to other accountancy firms whereby it's not the right fit for us. There are so many other things whereby we are doing, and then we're chatting about families, friends, and it just becomes a far more mutually impactful side of things, so that we feel more motivated and empowered and rewarded by we've just seen the benefits our clients experience themselves. And again, this is something for which I'm proud to be part of. The staff are proud to be part of it. And it's almost kind of buying into a purpose. I know Seymour talks about this. It's a purpose. As accountants, we have a purpose to help our clients feel fulfilled, to strengthen one or even three key areas: time, money, freedom. If we can do one or more of those three things, our clients are going to absolutely love us, and they are going to live a fulfilled life, rather than always waiting for tomorrow and that retired stage. No, let's live a fun life now, because the journey is where the fun really is.
Yeah, and I think having that relationship, or members of your team having that relationship as well with your clients, and having that knowledge of their family and knowing them personally, I think that makes you care even more about how successful they are, which means you're going to deliver an all-round better service, but also they're going to see the value of working with you, and they're going to look at you more than you're more than an accountant, aren't you?
Yeah.
When it comes,
exactly.
That, it means more to them as well to have that relationship with you, and that trust that they can just ask you anything, and they're going to get an empathetic ear, sympathetic ear. You're going to be able to have a discussion about things, and you'll be able to try and help them and give them the right kind of strategies to move forward with their business, etc. And sometimes that might be more personal and not involved in business, but that's fine, isn't it? Because we're there to help people, and that's exactly. For me, that's what it's all about. So I love that. I love how you're operating your business in that way. So that's great to hear, Graeme. Thanks for sharing that.
No, thank you.
Obviously, so we came out of the pandemic. You're delivering more to your clients now, and then a year or so later, I think probably last year sometime, you took the plunge to join us at Profit First Professionals. So can you just explain how you found out about Profit First? Where did that come up first for you?
Yeah, of course. So it was actually a little while even before that when I first read the book. And again, if I go back to the very start, you can start seeing the little pieces then and how they evolve and obviously start coming together. A lot of business owners don't get their numbers. They just don't quite understand them. Well, they don't understand them and look at them the same way as what an accountant does. Also, on the flip side, naturally, a lot of accountant doesn't get numbers or understand numbers in the same way a business owner does. And that's been like that for years. And if we look at just reporting the numbers rather than influencing the numbers, we're only doing part of the job. If we're always looking historically, we're not really kind of being as impactful as what we possibly can be. Again, you're going to see a common theme in terms of impact here. Yeah. So with all of that there, I know from even my studying days when I was back at university just a few years ago, and back then, the term profit and cash is one that so many business owners really struggle to comprehend in terms of what the difference the two are. They might say, oh, well, how am I profitable? I haven't got so much cash and this, that, and the other. And sometimes that's just a timing thing. So I went through the stage of, I read probably a business book a month, at least. I love reading. Sadly, I don't read any fiction stuff. It is all business. Even on holiday, I'll read a business book. So I read the Profit First book, and I felt as though it was a crucial piece in the advisory part of our business, which we're obviously kind of fully built out. I felt as though it was a crucial piece which was missing. But I also, at this stage, don't mind admitting, I thought it was a crucial part which was missing in, like, our business and my life. And I often say profit first changed our lives and our business hugely. So if I start with us, and then because often what we do in our business, with the majority of things, I first do it with us, because I feel if I do it with us first and the team experience it first, we are far better positioned to support our clients. So a bit like, because I come from a business first background with my dad's forklift truck business to there now, I can speak firsthand of the struggles I've seen being part of a business owner's family. And I'm not just reading it from a book or chatting reference people have told me, I've seen it firsthand. A lot of the team have seen it firsthand. So when I read Profit First, I was like, this is incredible. Whilst I do get the difference between profit and cash, just to be abundantly clear, I did recognize the issues with the formula, and I started to split it down a little bit more. So I'm not going to repeat what's in the book, because again, that's for a whole new conversation and a lot longer conversation than that. With the whole broken formula of income less expenses equals profits, and how the business owner comes first, the same applies to time. So if you think income as being the customers, expenses being your business, and profit being you, literally, you are always last in line with regards to time. You're first in the office, you're last out. You work longer hours than everybody else, and you and your family suffer most from a time perspective because you are absent more than you're present. And that was a huge move for me to say, wowzers. You think from a cash perspective, again, the book goes on to this, and think, whatever we get, you want to kind of support your client, support your team as constant. I want to grow, I want to this, that, and the other. And you say, well, hang on a minute. It's okay to be a little bit selfish from time to time. And it's okay to start just taking little bits away to have that now. I've got an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old girl. That time frame when they are that age to do the things I most want to do with them is very short. Life's short anyway, but that time frame is very short. I don't want to have to wait too long, so I'm missing those magic moments. That magic moment of taking them to Lapland to see the real Santa. The idea of taking them to Florida, to Disneyland, see the magic of Disney, to take them skiing. All these sort of things, these memories was really, really important. It was like, I need to start being a little bit more professionally selfish, whilst not other people's suffering, but at least start bumping myself up the list of priorities here to get something out. And I need to encourage business owners to do the same once I can kind of replicate this in my business. So, to date, bearing in mind we only fully implement it within our business within the past 3 years, 2 consecutive years taking both kids skiing. Disneyland we're doing next year, and I took them to Lapland last year. And time-wise, and this is the same spread to the team as well, we've got such a better balance. When I say balance, work-life balance, I don't like that term. I think with one, the other suffers in terms of it. But we've got a blend there for which all of a sudden we're not working excessive hours. And what hours we are working, they are impactful hours, and our families are experiencing it outside the firm. So when I did that, I was like, I feel so much more fulfilled, and I feel like I'm giving the impact back to the family, and I'm just getting started. I want to do this more. So by doing that more was a case of, right, how do I then do this with our clients? So we're now seeing clients over the past 2 years, seeing the same impacts and benefits I've seen. Trips to Florida for them, buying holiday homes, having more spend time with the family, not working a Friday or a Friday afternoon, all those side of things. So all of a sudden those businesses are starting to put themselves first a little bit more, their families first a little bit more. And this is ultimately what we're trying to do. Time is so short, time is so precious. The only thing certain about time today is we've got less time today than what we had yesterday. So by doing that, all of a sudden it made the financial conversations, the operational conversations, and the retirement conversations one. Because all of a sudden we're going on a very clearly defined path, and Profit First allows us the methodology to manage that path so we're speaking in the same language. And it's been huge. And we're just getting started.
That's amazing. Thank you, Graeme. I really love that. Do you know, I sometimes hear people say, thinking of the business owner now, I sometimes hear business owners say they don't like the idea of Profit First because they want to look after their team. But actually, I bet you the clients that you're talking about, and I know your team for one will come under this, actually, by looking after yourself first, you end up looking after your team in a much better way, in a longer term sustainable way for their futures as well, don't you? It just follows that pathway on, doesn't it, from the journey that you make. And it's really important for that message for people to understand that, because the term profit first can be read the wrong way, can't it, if we're not too careful. So explaining these things is important.
Yeah, it can be. I think there's a couple of things just to extract from that. The first thing I would say is there's a book called Your Oxygen Mask First. Brilliant book. There's a workbook to the actual book itself, where I accidentally ordered the workbook rather than the actual book, but I found it great. But off the back of that book, if you go back to the number of times you're on an aeroplane, and they always say, apply your oxygen mask first. I never got it. And even when I was a parent with kids, it was like, there's no way I'm not going to look after my kids first and foremost ahead of me. But if I'm out of it, who's going to look after my kids? And the same methodology applies in your own business. So whilst you think it's actually selfish of you to put yourself first, you can put yourself first without walking all over other people. You don't have to do that. But ultimately, if you're not in a sound, safe place, you cannot support your staff, your clients, everyone external to you, a bit like that seat on the plane. Now, going back to profit first, I've played around with the words a little bit before. I haven't trademarked this, so somebody can steal it if they want to steal it. But with profit first, I've actually reframed this a little bit, and I often kind of call this the you first approach.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a wider remit of what it's trying to do. And this is why I have the time blend along with the financial blend. So merging those together, that becomes really powerful. But yeah, the you first approach is what really kind of brings it together, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that just makes it more succinct on what you're delivering for people, for your clients and stuff.
Yes.
And like you said, this is only where you're at the moment with the clients you're working with. It's only the beginning. There's a lot further they can go, and there's also a lot more people that you can work with to get them to this point as well, isn't there?
Yes.
And on that note, so who are your clients, and what type of businesses do you like to work with?
Okay, so I would say niching is such a common thing which is talked about, and I struggled for about 10 years, and I'll never fully get it, because I think niche is one of these things that just permanently evolves. We actually niche a stage in the journey, in terms of that. So yes, you can have a niche of a niche, and we do have that as well. But our niche in terms of journey is a business owner which is typically £10 million turnover or less, but they are in the middle stage of the journey, not necessarily just set up, not necessarily at the exit stage. We do have both out there, but if I'm saying our sweet spot, it's that middle bit. It's that middle bit where they want to change. Now, again, that's quite open-ended, so I'll just put a bit more context into that. Usually we are able to extract that out by way of finding family-driven businesses, but it's by way of asking one of three questions that we go down this. And by the time we get into this, we'll know whether these are the clients for us. And our marketing's framed around this, subtly around lots of different things. So the first question we would ask a client is, are you comfortable with how many meal times and bedtimes you are making with loved ones? The second question is, are you comfortable where your business is now, insofar as would you say happy with that compared with where you originally envisaged it being on day one? The third question, that gets quite emotional when you get to this point, is if something were to happen to you tomorrow and you weren't to wake up, would you be comfortable and happy with the life you've lived and the life you've left behind for loved ones? Now, subject to the answers to those three questions, will open up to see whether this is something for which they would like some help, some support, giving more confident answers which they are happy with to one or more of those three questions. That is where we start getting the degree, and we can really drill into business owners, whereby it's a case of, I want change, I'm prepared to change, and I'm prepared to pay the cost, not necessarily financial, I'm talking financial and time. I'm prepared to pay that cost, make that contribution for better. And better doesn't have to be a case of scale to 50 million. I'm talking better in terms of whatever context better is to them.
Yeah, I like that. And that third question is very thought-provoking as well. So that you're right, it does bring an emotion up, doesn't it? Just making you think about the answer to that question provokes an emotion for all of us, you know, when you hear that. So I like that. And it also gives you an idea of how much they're willing to share with you as well, I guess, even though that's an early stage kind of situation, but it does help because as you said, personal touch with your clients, you know, that's the starting point, isn't it? This is the personal touch from day one. And that's really interesting how that actually starts straight away, building up that level of understanding of your client and where they're at and what they want to achieve from not just from a business point of view, from a personal point of view, which I think is really important because it's them, isn't it? It's all about them and about how they can change to make their business better. So yeah, brilliant, Graeme. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So if anybody wants to get in contact with you, how do they do, or a member of your team, how do they do that initially?
What I would say is if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you will find me on there. Just to confuse matters, my dad is also on LinkedIn and works for me also, and is also Graeme Tennick. Whilst there might be some similarities looks-wise, I'd like to think you can't tell the two of us apart, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Email Graeme, Graeme @Tennick, TENNICK.co.uk. And also, again, I say we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and website www.tennick.co.uk. But yeah, via any means, I'm happy to chat with business owners, accountants alike, because together we can make the world a better place.
And that is where we should stop because that was a fantastic ending. So thank you very much, Graeme. I really appreciate your time and thanks for joining me on this call.
Thank you so much, Tim, for your time also. Thank you.